heard some amens there. Yesterday, I sat down to write this sermon after a day of cleaning up around the church and working with the HVAC service guy to make sure all this was comfortable in here for the morning. The cleaning up part was peaceful. I got my bristled brush out even and cleaned the memorial garden bricks behind the church with the etched names of loved ones. I picked up all the twigs, branches, and palm leaves on the ground and carried them to the street. Travis put all the furniture back on our porch. The most strenuous task was using a chainsaw to cut up one large limb that had fallen from the top of the large oak tree and landed between the fence and the parish office, causing no damage. No damage. As I drove around Apalachicola Friday morning, I kept saying that to myself. Everything looked clean. No damage. Now, we may have escaped the worst that the storm had in store, and overall, most of you had little to no damage. But I know, and I want to recognize that Helene did cause some damage. It was in those of us who only 6 years ago next week were damaged by Hurricane Michael. So this week, it would have been normal, and I hope you hear that. It would have been normal to have PTSD symptoms, heightened anxiety, fear, on edge, with those memories of the difficulties of that time just replaying in our heads. It was in those who evacuated, it was those who stayed, it was those whose families were evacuated to one city while we went to another. It was in those who couldn't evacuate because of finances, health reasons, transportation, you name it. And that damage continues to unfold, and seeing the footage of places like Cedar Key and Perry, but also places I've never seen, and places far, far removed from here. Water and wind has caused the death of over 60 people since Thursday evening, and just as many are still unaccounted for. So when I think about the damage from that, I also think about the storms in our life that affect us. I think about how the damage that we experience, whether it's big or small, whether it's temporary or permanent, ends up revealing a little bit about who we are inside. See, we go through a million tests of metal in our lives to see whether we are tough enough, strong enough, healthy enough, faithful enough to respond. Now, hopefully that response of ours is something that would please us, like we didn't just sit there and take it, or at least it's a response that gives that experience meaning. Life gives us a million reasons not to keep going. And some of them are huge, like a death, a divorce, a diagnosis, a hurricane. And some of them are tiny, like choosing to respond to a friend's political rant online, or whether to exercise when the couch is just so very comfy. Life gives us a million reasons to question what it is we're doing all this for. We have a base of evidence that's larger than a hill of oyster shells. And a lot of that evidence leads plenty of people to surmise that there is no God, that we are alone, that we are on our own. People say, how can I pray to a God that will spare my town? Because by extension, I am approving, however indirectly, of damage to another. Putting my request on the expense account of somebody else. But all I have to do is go back to what I did yesterday around the church grounds, and I find validation and peace, even in the aftermath of a hurricane. Because we were lucky. We were lucky. And as I said in my Bayview reflection, all I had to do was pick up sticks. But there are plenty of others who will be picking up pieces of their lives for years to come. You know what that is like. Whether it is after Hurricane Michael or whether it's anything in your life. Because if life gives us those million reasons, all I have to do is look around at us and be reminded that damage does not have the final say. Because you are all survivors. You are all survivors. You are survivors of cancer, of breakups of relationships, death, job loss and insecurity, crime, financial troubles. You are survivors of upheaval in your life, whether it was permanent or whether it was temporary. And each one of you is a survivor of the very worst thing that has ever happened to you. Think about that. Think about that. You are the survivor of the very worst thing that's ever happened to you, and you are here. It may have knocked you down, but you are here. So, the question becomes, what does you being here today say about you? What does it say about your faith? Well, you are here because a big part of being a survivor is in the response. It is what we say, it is what we feel, it is our attitude, it is how we act to the card that's dealt. It is how we use the evidence for good or for bad. What do all the tragedies in the history of the world have in common, whether they were caused by war, weather, or otherwise? It's in what happens after. People immediately begin cleaning up, counting the cost, rebuilding. They have every reason to walk away, and some people use that as evidence to say, see, there is no God. And yet, when we respond in kindness and generosity, we push back against the tide to show that life doesn't get the best of us because we are survivors. And we have chosen to clean up around town, the same as we have chosen to not let our pasts dictate what our futures will be, to not let destruction have the last say. Because it is in destruction that creation can happen. It is in destruction of the world that healing of the world may begin. God destroyed eternal darkness so that there would be light. God destroyed a single body of water in order to make the sky. God destroyed a single sea in order to create land. See, sometimes things are damaged and destroyed such that we can create. It makes me think of that Leonard Cohen song, Anthem, with the line that says, there is a crack in everything, but that's how the light gets in. And this light that's getting into my life was picking up those sticks around church and checking on you as you returned, checking on you after the storm. It's the same as you searching for happiness in your life where you were sure there was none to be found. It is the same as finding a peace and acceptance of who you are beyond all understanding in a community that recognizes that we are all survivors. that we are responding in our own individual and complex ways. And because you are here today, I hope you remind yourself that every stick you pick up, every check you write for relief anywhere, every relationship you start after the last one left you high and dry, every day you are sober, every day you choose to live and live abundantly, that is grabbing hold of the love that God instilled in each one of us at creation. God saw everything that God had made, and indeed it was very good. Even the things that were destroyed were created anew for God's purposes. So when we tend to self-care, we keep that creation love story alive for others to see. Joni Mitchell was right. Something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. And you can see those impacts yourself right now at what you have gained in living every day. I mean, look around. Look into the eyes of all the people here. Look into the eyes of fellow survivors. Because this storm may not have caused the loss that so many others are feeling right now. But this storm is a reminder that we are all cut from the same cloth, and survivors all the same. So feel the hope that exists, and live into the hope that God put within you, and help bring that hope to a world that is crying out for it.